The story begins with a popular virtual reality game called the Newgate. But it suddenly becomes deadly when players can't log out, and dying in the game means dying in real life. The only way to escape is by beating the game. We meet Shin, who is determined to make it to the end. We see Shin ready to challenge the final boss of the game while his NPCs tell him to be careful. He starts fighting with the boss and manages to cut off its wing, but it regenerates. He decides to attack faster and manages to get its HP low. It tries to regenerate again, but he delivers the finishing blow. Shin gains several titles, and the game system announces that the final boss has been defeated, so players can finally log out. He checks his scroll to see the players leaving the game until he's the last one left. He prepares to leave, but a gate suddenly opens, confusing him since the boss was supposed to be the last event of the game. He wakes up in a field outside and wonders what happened. It seems too real to be a game, so he checks his window and realizes his stats have increased thanks to the titles he received after defeating the boss. He tries to log out again but can't find the option. He attempts to see if anyone is online but has no network connection, wondering how he's playing without internet. Shin uses an item to find his way home, but on the way, he sees a city that wasn't there before. He sees his house but notices a girl in need of help as some guys drag her out of a barrier. A monster suddenly appears, so they run away, but Shin manages to save the girl. They go inside the house, and the girl introduces herself as Tiara, thanking him for saving her. She thinks he's a friend of her master, but Shin doesn't know who she's talking about. Tiara mentions that everyone knows Shei from the Moon Sanctum, and he becomes surprised because Shei is one of his support characters. Shin notices she's suspicious, so he explains that they're old friends and asks where Shei is. Tiara doesn't want to tell him because he's a stranger, but she can deliver a message to Shei, saying it costs 1,000 jewels. Shin shows a coin and explains he only has one gale. Tiara wonders if he used an item box because only kings can use one, and she's also surprised by the gale coin because one of them is worth 10 billion jewels. She says they can be enchanted, but he notes that in the game, one gale was the smallest amount of money. Tiara wonders who he is, so Shin explains he's a high human. He discovers that only 6 high humans existed in the world and they disappeared 500 years ago during the dusk of prosperity. Shin is confused, and she wonders how he doesn't know about this historical event where many people disappeared. He thinks she's talking about the mass logout and realizes that thousands of people logging out at the same time became a major incident. He realizes he's been sent 500 years into the future of the game. Shin thanks her for teaching him this and offers a gale as a token of gratitude. She's happy to have one. Shin thinks it will be useful to her since elves are good at magic, but she wonders how he knows she's an elf because Shei put an illusion spell on her. Shin wonders why, so she reveals that elves with black hair are a bad omen. She was expelled from her village for always being attacked by monsters, so Shei changed her appearance and brought her to the shop where she can stay safe thanks to the barrier. She has been living like this for the last 100 years. Shin realizes why the boar appeared and mentions her hair was silver before. He decides to analyze her and discovers she has a curse that manifests randomly. He knows how to undo it and uses purification on her, but he's disappointed that only part of her hair returned to normal. She can't believe it and gets emotional. They try to leave the barrier but aren't attacked, so she cries tears of joy. Back at the Moon Sanctuary, Tiara explains that Shei will take a while to return, so Shin decides to visit the city to learn more about this world. She has something to help him enter the city and shows a letter of recommendation, saying he can use it to pass through the town's checkpoint. He thinks it's too much, but she wanted to thank him even more. She promises to let him know when Shei returns, so Shin thanks her before leaving. He enters the city of Bari, and the guard explains that the letter of recommendation is a big deal because it works in other kingdoms, and he can even get an audience with the king. The guard takes Shin to the Adventurers Guild, where he tries to register as an adventurer, but the receptionist explains that registrations happen on the first floor. He goes to the first floor and thinks the receptionist looks a lot like the last one, so she explains that the last one is her twin sister Celica, and she's Celia. He waits for his adventurer card, and Celica appears with something to eat. He starts eating, but she keeps staring at him, so he wonders what happened. She wants to verify his letter of recommendation, and Shin finds out that the guild master is right behind him. They decide to talk, and the man introduces himself as Barlu. He places another letter of recommendation next to Shin's, and Barlu sees that they resonate, so he knows it's genuine. He explains that letters of recommendation are valuable as they're the most reliable form of identification and grant access to many places, so many people try to steal them. It would be a disaster if it fell into the wrong hands, so he asks him to destroy it if he can't protect it. Shin assures him that he'll be fine and can't do that after Tiara trusted him with it. Barlu is glad to hear this and thinks they will get along well since they're both men recognized by the sanctuary. The next day, Shin goes to get his adventurer card, and Celica sees that he's wearing new clothes while he thinks his other outfit was too flashy for a low-class adventurer. She gives him the guild card and explains that there are 9 ranks starting from G, and he can go up to a double S rank by completing missions, but he can only accept jobs 2 ranks higher than his. Shin takes on an herb collecting mission and says goodbye to her while Celica thinks about how he seems different from the others. We see Shin frustrated in the forest because he has been searching for hours and remembers that in the game, this mission was for beginners. He suddenly notices an enemy on the radar, so he goes to see and discovers that it's a skull-faced Jack with a level of 359. He finds a broken carriage and can't ignore it, so he decides to attack. He wonders why an undead is holding a light sword and thinks it's a unique monster. He attacks it again, but it doesn't seem effective, and his sword is already damaged. He has no other choice and unlocks his limit. He charges again, but this time he eliminates the monster with 1 strike. The sword flies away, and he regrets it because he wanted it. The monster drops a gemstone, so he decides to accept it as the sword lands in the castle, and the guards are confused about what happened. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.